What's the opposite of a high-pressure salesperson? It's not a no-pressure salesperson. It's a passive pressure salesperson. No-pressure sales is the perfect sweet spot in the middle. Let's talk about the other two next on Purpose Under Pressure. Well, welcome back. My name's Brian. This is Purpose Under Pressure. It's a podcast about developing sales and leadership success on purpose while you're under pressure. Brought to you by the professional sales and leadership training team at Sandler by the Ruby Group. The Ruby Group, actionable strategies for today's toughest business challenges. You'll find them in Akron and Columbus, Ohio. They're in Jacksonville, Florida. They're in Capital Region, New York. They serve clients all over the country, I believe worldwide, and they can help you where you are. They do their work on purpose so that you and your team can represent that way. And I think you should do this. Connect with them online at therubygroup.sandler.com. If you reach out and talk to any of those guys and girls, I'm telling you, it's going to be the best call you've ever made, at least today. And whether you buy anything or not, it won't matter. You're going to learn something. You're going to learn something about them, probably learn something about yourself. So I encourage you to do that. Again, it's therubygroup.sandler.com. So let's get cooking and talk about pressure. It's what makes things hard, right? It's the title of this show. We're talking about the hard stuff that's trying to knock us down from what's right. And nowhere is that more evident than in a high-pressure salesperson. We don't like them, do we? We don't like high-pressure salespeople. No one does. It gives us a bad name. It makes us kind of run away in the other direction. Jordan Mullett from Sandler by the Ruby Group will be here later on this week in our next episode of the podcast to talk about high-pressure sales and how to make a no-pressure sales call and still make the sale. That's on purpose. And that's what I want to talk about, because I know this. If you have to use pressure to make a sale, then you're doing it wrong. You're not on purpose. If you have to lie, if you have to make up facts, if you have to promise the world you can't deliver just to close the sale, maybe you figure it out later, that's wrong. And maybe you don't consider yourself a high pressure salesperson, but I tell you what, don't fool yourself. If you know that sale isn't win-win, it's not in everyone's best interest, it's not in their best interest, it's not in your company's best interest, that's not right. Stop it. Don't continue on if that's the case. I'll call it high pressure because you're doing something other than using facts and purpose just so you can close a deal. You're forcing a square peg into a round hole. And folks, that's the definition of high pressure. You picture that. That takes a lot of force. It's not just going to happen on its own. So there is room for persuasion. I don't want to tell you that you can't try to make a sale. There's room for pushback. There's room for discussion. There's expectation of a salesperson to overcome objections when you're working in the buyer's best interest. And if you know something that the buyer is yet to understand, you know something about your service or about your product or about their needs that the buyer isn't quite clicking on it yet, well, that's on you as a professional salesperson to figure it out, to get them to see things in a different light from your perspective. Maybe you ask more questions. Maybe you dig a little deeper. That's not high pressure. That's just being a salesperson. But when the buyer doesn't see the value and the buyer doesn't see the need and isn't going to, then your job as a seller is over, at least for now. No today is not no forever. It just means right now, it's not going to work. So turn the pressure off. It's time to walk away. I think many don't. But let me warn you of the opposite of high pressure. And when I talked with Jordan and we talk about the next podcast and he says the no pressure call, I think there's another kind of pressure. I think I'd call it passive pressure, maybe negative pressure. Passive pressure, you're not doing your job at all. You might get a sales meeting, succeed only at making a friend. You might just talk about everything else under the sun, except the products or services, except their need. You might dance around the issue. You never uncover an opportunity. You never uncover any pain, let alone ask for a sale. And why? I think it's because of fear of rejection. I think you're afraid that the client, the customer, the prospect will say no, and you'll lose that opportunity for a yes later on. I call that passive sales, and that's not good either. Passive pressure isn't going to get you anywhere. A few years ago, I was tasked with opening up a brand new sales territory. I knew no one there. No one there knew me. And so I made it a point on purpose. It was my strategy to build a network, to get to know everyone, to gain trust, to generate interest along the way. And I still think it's a good strategy. What I didn't do was I didn't transition into asking for a sale, asking for an opportunity, moving it to the next level. I didn't get there. I made a lot of friends. And man, I tell you what, I wouldn't do it differently if I had to lose those friends. I love those relationships, but I didn't make any sales. And that's a problem. And as a salesperson, if you're going to go by professional, that's a failure. And I didn't just fail myself. I failed my company. I failed the people who I think, my friends, who probably could have used our goods and services. I didn't ask for the sale. It was passive pressure. I learned from that. And that's why I wanted to share this with you. I think there's 3 things that if I had a chance to go back and do it again, I would do it this way. Number 1, I would be confident. If you're selling a product that you don't understand or you don't believe in, then I'm telling you right now, you shouldn't be selling it. You have to know that what you have is of value to the person on the other side. When you do, then you can't help yourself but to talk about it. You're not afraid of rejection. You go talk to somebody else. You're actually inspired by your products. You're inspired by the opportunity that it can bring to the person on the other side of the table. That's how you get to the good stuff. And so you ask for those opportunities when you're confident. The second thing I think I would do more of is my homework. You should do your homework. You should know enough about your prospects' potential needs before you ever get to the table with them. When you do that, man, you can't help but talk about that stuff. You can't help but dig for a little bit of pain. Try to uncover some opportunities to help, to provide a solution. That's what you do with friends. This way, you're not just fishing, hoping something might bite the hook you just dropped into the lake. That's probably the most passive of all sports. It's probably a good analogy. You value their time. I think the third thing you do is you value their time. Don't waste their time. If you book a meeting and they book a meeting with you, make it worth their while. They're not looking for friends. They can do that at home. They can do that at church. They can do that at the gym. Know deep down that if they take a meeting with you, they want to know more about you. They want to know more about your products and your services. Don't just give them a free lunch and then go enter the details in your CRM and tell your manager you had your meetings, you did your work. It's bad for everybody. Bottom line, no one likes high pressure. Jordan Mullet is going to talk with us more about that in a couple of days on the Purpose Under Pressure podcast about no pressure sales calls. But no benefits from passive pressure come either. You may think you're being nice, but you're not. You're wasting everyone's time. Don't do that. That's not on purpose. Folks, thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like us, follow us, subscribe, tell a friend. We air new episodes multiple times a week, so that way you won't miss anything if you're a subscriber. Plus, it helps others know the show is out there and worth watching too. You'll find all past episodes of Purpose Under Pressure at brianmediastrategies.com/podcast and wherever you stream your favorite shows. It's brought to you by the Ruby Group, actionable strategies for today's toughest business challenges. Until next time, stand strong. There's going to be pressure. Stay on purpose.